This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Mr. Riddle on the Digital Sportscentre presented by Shanahan's Barbecue and Bar.
And we start with huge breaking news, as Brendan Shanahan's contract with the Maple Leafs will not be renewed. Shanahan had been with the Leafs since April of 2014, and the Leafs have won just 2 series in those 11 years. Shanahan released a statement saying, quote, "Following a meeting today, I was informed that I was no longer to remain as president and alternate governor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to thank the board of MLSE for the tremendous support they have shown me over my tenure." He also went on to thank the entire Maple Leaf staff for their commitment and hard work over the years, adding, quote, "While I am proud of the rebuild we embarked on starting in 2014, ultimately I came here to help win the Stanley Cup, and we did not. There is nothing more I wanted to deliver to our fans, and my biggest regret is that we could not finish the job."
So let's take a look at why people think the Shanaplan has failed so far. After being named team president, he began making moves early. By 2016, the Leafs have moved on from stars Phil Kessel and Dion Phaneuf and replaced head coach Randy Carlyle with Shanahan's former bench boss in Detroit, Mike Babcock. And while the team struggled on the ice in these seasons, it helped them land top draft prospects Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, who very quickly helped Toronto make a surprise playoff appearance in 2017. And while everything was going well so far, the following summer began the trend that many pundits would say cursed the Shanahan era, and that is Toronto's overspending. The Leafs were looking to add a veteran presence in the locker room and spent a lot of money on 38-year-old Patrick Marleau. This deal very quickly caught up to them. After only 2 years of signing it, the Leafs had to give up a first-round pick to get off his contract. And why were they trying to clear up cap space? Well, to pay the core four. This all began when the Leafs gave up the largest free agent contract in NHL history to John Tavares in 2018. And after signing all 3 of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander to pricey deals over the next years, Toronto was very quickly paying their top 4 players, all forwards, right around half of the salary cap, which had never really been done before and led to wins. The thinking here was to sign these guys before their primes, and then as the cap continues to rise, they'd have their core locked up to what was supposed to look like affordable deals. But what the Leafs could not foresee was the cap remaining relatively stagnant over the next few seasons due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a result, Toronto found themselves once again in salary cap hell. All of a sudden, they could not afford to keep their depth pieces, meaning they had to let guys like Zach Hyman walk in free agency, which was a devastating blow to Toronto because that's just a nice guy, a nice hometown guy you're letting go. And then look at all the goals he scored in Edmonton. But the Leafs were still trying to contend in that era and began making a series of trades that involved retained salaries to get under the cap. But doing it that way isn't cheap, and doing it that way has resulted in Toronto giving up a ton of draft capital for players who left after just 1 season. Not the smartest asset management. And all of this has backed Toronto into a corner. They haven't been able to afford to make any drastic roster moves, but they've also had to spend a fortune to try to add depth pieces. And ultimately, it hasn't led to any playoff success in Shanahan's 11 years in Toronto. To the association in a Game 2 between the T-Wolves and Thunder is anything like we saw last night between the Pacers and Knicks, then ball fans will be extremely happy tonight because Tyrese Haliburton with the in-game choke gesture is easily one of the highlights of the playoffs. The callback and the big ball brain, okay, to do that move at that point in time, brilliant. But on to tonight's game. OKC comes into this one up 1-0 after a pretty convincing win in Game 1. And we've known this for what seems like months, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was officially named MVP yesterday. The 3rd time MVP has been won by Canadian, as Steve Nash won back-to-back in 05-06 and Shai yesterday. Which is pretty cool that the best player in the sport is from Hamilton, Ontario, a place I will be in this weekend for CFL preseason. Interestingly enough, this is the 7th straight year the award has been won by a player not born in the US, as before SGA we had Jokic 3 of the last 4 years, with Embiid sprinkled in the year Jokic didn't win, and Giannis going back-to-back in 2019 and 2020. So what's up, America? I thought you were the best in the world. Where's your USA chant now? So back to tonight though. SGA will be looking to build on a solid Game 1 to take a 2-0 series lead, as he had 31-9-5 in the opener, but didn't shoot the most efficiently. But when you win by 26, does it really matter? The Thunder are 7.5-point favorites for tonight's game. Let's settle that at 2:15. And you can watch Game 2 between the T-Wolves and Thunder tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Time now for the Big Play Replay presented by Shanahan's Barbecue and Bar. And there's only one real choice for this. Pacers down to final seconds. Tyrese Haliburton caps off one of the biggest comebacks in NBA history.
2-point game. Indiana with it. Haliburton. He'll take it. He'll backpedal a 3 for the win. And goal! He got it!
We're going to be going to overtime.
We sure are.
He hits this shot. It bounces. The choke gesture. Come on. come on, this is beautiful. The only thing that would have made it better is if it was a game winner. But instead, that shot forced OT, and the Pacers went on to win the game in overtime. And here's a crazy stat. Teams trailing by 7 or more in the last 50 seconds in the playoffs are 4-17-0-2 all time. And 3 of those 4 times, it was the Pacers in these playoffs. How is it even possible? That is a never say die team mentality. My God. Let's shift back to hockey and finish in the PWHL, because Game 2 between Minnesota and Ottawa goes down tonight. And after a wild Game 1 overtime win for the Charge, Ottawa is now just 2 wins away from winning the Walter Cup. But for Minnesota, they might have Ottawa right where they want them, because this stat is absolutely wild. In the last 2 PWHL playoffs, Minnesota is 0-4 in series opening games, but have never lost a series, including winning last year's Walter Cup, which quite honestly was devastating as someone who cheers for a different team, but it was very cool that Minnesota was the one to do it. But to get back into the series tonight, they're going to need a big game from Taylor Heise, who was in a nice playoff so far, with a goal and 5 assists, but she was held off the score sheet entirely in the Game 1 loss. And that was also the case in their only other loss these playoffs, Game 1 against Toronto. The Frost are slight road favorites for tonight's game, so the total set at 4.5. And checking the goal scorer odds on FanDuel, Heise to score is plus 290, and that seems tasty. She really is due. And honestly, my Sasky girl, Emily Clark, is plus 280, and you know she's been hot, so give it a little sprinkle. You can watch Game 2 of the PWHL Finals tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. The PWHL is a good time. I don't know how many more times I need to tell you. Just watch, you'll enjoy it. That's it for today's episode. If you're going to New Pacific, have a good one.